Good evening and welcome. This is the adult education space, Temple Bethel. I'm Rabbi Gershon, and it's a pleasure to receive you. And this evening, we are going to talk about an important issue. We have a special guest, Dr. Fernando Lottenberg. He's a Brazilian lawyer. I will introduce him soon. But my concern is to talk about anti-Semitism.
Whoops.
What's going
Whoops.
on? Something happened, Carly?
Yeah, I accidentally touched it.
Okay.
I'll get you back.
Okay. Hi, Randy. Welcome. Good evening. Good evening to all of you. We are going to talk about anti-Semitism, but first of all, we need to understand what is anti-Semitism, and I would like to share with you a modern definition about anti-Semitism. When we are talking about anti-Semitism, we need to consider some definition from that the Anti-Defamation League help us to understand. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes. Whoops. Yes.
In 2016, 21 member states of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, of which the United States is a member, adopted a non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism and its plenary in Bucharest. Okay, which is this definition that many governments signed, and they agree about what is anti-Semitism. And this is the way that many countries understand nowadays what is anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestation of anti-Semitism are directly toward Jews or non-Jewish individual and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. This is one of the definitions that many countries sign, and they agree with this definition that they call the IHRA definition. Another important thing that completely changed about anti-Semitism, it's what's going on in our world before and after October 7, 2023. And we can see many different statistics about anti-Semitism, and it's really very sad what's going on when we are talking about anti-Semitism. Let me tell you that we are living in one of the states that more anti-Semitism have in the United States. We are just in the second place after New York. Let me show this statistic that was prepared by the Anti-Defamation League. Okay, below we have here the 10 states with the highest numbers of anti-Semitic incidents in 2024. It's a recently a list. And then we have 64% of the incidents nationwide. Each state, according, provides specific incident total. Okay, we have here, but look at the list. New York, and we have 1,437 incidents, 18% more than 1 year ago. Okay, we are now in 2025, then we don't have the statistic of this year, but we compare the last year with 2023, 18% more. We are talking about New York, and look at California. We are in the second place with 1,344 incidents, 600% more than in 2023. And we have different ways to understand, yes, harassment, vandalism, assaults, and we have Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego as the main places that these acts happen. This is just an introduction, and I would like to share my conversation with the lawyer Fernando Lottenberg. And this is something really very, very important. I don't know if you are familiar with the Organization of American States. It's really a very old organization. It's like the UN, but in America. And the lawyer Fernando Lottenberg became the first commissioner to monitor and combat anti-Semitism from this important organization. I will introduce him. We will hear the conversation, and later on we are going back, and I would like to listen your questions, commentaries, and what you like to say about this conversation. I really enjoy to talk. He's not with us because it's really late in Brazil, and it's also a holiday in Brazil, and he was not available to be live, but we recorded this conversation this week. Let me just once again share my screen. Okay.
Rabbi, can we have people mute so it doesn't interrupt the conversation? Because people have phones ringing and different things. Can we mute ourselves for during this?
Let me, everybody's mute now. I also will mute my screen. Just let's see. Okay. Vamos a. In our adult education space, it's a pleasure to receive in this opportunity Dr. Fernando Lottenberg, a Brazilian lawyer from São Paulo, full partner of Lottenberg Advogados Asociados, and he is the first commissioner to monitor and combat anti-Semitism of the Organization of American States. Graduate of the Law School of the University of São Paulo, where he earned a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in public international law. He was a Fulbright Fellow at the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs in Houston, Texas. Fluent in English, French, Italian, and Spanish, he's a member of the boards of directors of Hospital Israelita Albert Einstein, of the Lazar Segal Museum, of the Fernando Enrique Cardoso Foundation, and of the Movement for the Defense of Lawyers, among others. He was a member of the board of directors of the Secretary of International Relations of the Municipality of São Paulo and of the International Relations Management Council of the Government of the State of São Paulo. I also know Dr. Fernando Lottenberg, and I can introduce him as a former president of CONIBI, the Brazilian Israelite Confederation. It's really for us a big pleasure to receive in our space here in TVE, Temple Bethel, Riverside, California. Dr. Lottenberg, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Gershon, for having me with you. It's a pleasure to be with the Jewish community of Bethel, Riverside. And Rabbi Gershon is a longtime friend. We cannot say old friends because we are young, but it's a longtime friend. And we have fought many fights together, and even in different places. It's a pleasure to be even remotely in California with you.
Thank you very much for attending my invitation. It's a little funny for me, yes, two Brazilians speaking in English. It's our first conversation in English, but I'm really would like to start with something that it's unique. You are the first commissioner to monitor and combat anti-Semitism of the Organization of American States. What is, let's talk about the organization and your function.
Okay, so the OAS, Gershon, is the oldest regional organization in the world. It dates back to the first International Conference of American States, which was held in the end of the 19th century. It was called the Pan American Organization. But as it's known today, the organization, as other international organizations, such as the United Nations and many others, came into being in 1948, just like also like the State of Israel, with the signing in Bogota, Colombia, of the OAS Charter. So it was created with the objective of achieving among its member states, and I quote its article number 1, an order of peace and justice to promote solidarity, to strengthen collaboration, and to defend sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. And nowadays, the OAS gathers 32 countries in the Americas, and we may say it's the main political, legal, social, and governmental forum of the hemisphere. And it has also observer countries from other 69 countries outside of the Americas. So the former secretary, Luis Almagro from Uruguay, decided in June 2021 to create this position following a trend that had been inaugurated by other countries and international organizations, such as the European Union, many European countries, United States, Canada, nowadays Argentina too, that understood that the fight against anti-Semitism should also be driven by outside forces of the Jewish communities in the region. Of course, the Jewish communities are the main drive of this fight. But the consideration is that, first of all, it's not fair to leave this burden only on the Jewish community's shoulders, but it's in the interest of governments, societies, and international organizations to combat anti-Semitism, because it is a threat not only to Jews, but a threat to the whole societies, to democracy, and to human rights.
You started in your position on 2021, and of course the level of anti-Semitism around the world was really bad, but not so worse than in our days, October 7, 2023. First of all, I remember many years ago in a Zionist conference in Jerusalem, when I met Shimon Peres, the prime minister in that time, and he said that this is many people believe in the same, that anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism nowadays, by the enemies of the people of Israel, they try to show that it's the same. How we can define nowadays anti-Semitism? Is it the same as anti-Zionism? Our enemies try to confuse and to put in the same bag?
I think on the contrary, they try to show that they're different things, but in the end, and mostly nowadays, I think they are very similar, because of course you can be a Jew and you are not immigrating to Israel. That doesn't make you anti-Zionist, to make you a non-Zionist, or you are pro-Zionist, but you are not doing Aliyah. There are different things, but I believe that 95% of the Jewish people are in the favor of the existence of a Jewish state, such as the state of Israel. So I think that if you believe that all the peoples in the world are entitled to a state, but the Jewish people, if you think that Israel should be judged by a double standard, by being demanded things that you don't demand from other states, if you demonize, if you delegitimize the existence of the state of Israel, this is not only anti-Zionism, this is anti-Semitism. And we see that anti-Semitism, people kind of lost the shame of being anti-Semitic, because it's not something that could be socially acceptable since the end of World War II. But now it's a clean way to be anti-Semitic, saying that you are anti-Zionist. No, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm only anti-Zionist. But you blame the Jews in the diaspora for what the Israeli government decides. You consider them kind of in control or something, be it the banks, the press, the movie industry, whatever. You're in California, you know how this goes. And this thing of taking the Jews as a collective, as something monolithic that thinks in the same way and are in control or something, whatever it is, it's a form of anti-Semitism disguised as anti-Zionism. And we saw this increasing in a scale that we could not see it coming. I was very shocked. We expected some solidarity after October 7. Maybe it lasted 24 hours or 48 hours. And then it came a wave, I call it a tsunami of anti-Semitism. And we're feeling this in the university campuses. And we felt that in Washington, in Boulder, Colorado, and we see a lot in the social networks, how it translates from the virtual to the in-person hate.
Let's remember to the people who follow us that anti-Semitism is to be against the Jews, and anti-Zionism is to be against the existence of the state of Israel. We can see that the societies are very divided. We are talking in the last years, Fernando, about polarization. And we can see clear that the different governments for the extreme left, they have a clear position against the state of Israel. They are in the same back, let's say in that way. And the extreme right, they are in favor, but they are not speaking loud as we are expected. We can say that, is it wrong to say that the extreme left today, it's anti-Zionist?
I think you know that we have, I mentioned the special envoys, commissioners, and ambassadors against anti-Semitism in countries, international organizations, and we are working together in some causes that I can speak about it later if you wish. And Deborah Lipstadt was the ambassador in the United States to fight anti-Semitism, and she used to say that their image is a horseshoe where the extremes meet each other, extreme right and extreme left, for instance. Of course, the left has been very vocal about Israel and against Israel, be it after October 7, in the Gaza war, and even now in Iran. Iran is becoming the new cause of the extreme left, believe it or not. But you have at the same right, at the extreme right, a kind of the old anti-Semitism that shows its ugly face. For instance, we had in Charlottesville, Virginia, in 2017, the manifestation said Jews will not replace us. You have today Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor, the representative, which are people from the extreme right, saying things about Israel and how the US should not get involved in the fight against Iran. So I think for different reasons, these extremes meet each other. Sometimes the left is more vocal in these issues, but the extreme right is also present in a kind of a conspiratorial way. That thing that I mentioned about control, saying the Jews and somehow are directing American foreign policy and US should not be involved with. Going back to an isolationist view that at least we can say that does not favor even the Jews or either the Jews or the state of Israel.
You spoke an interesting word. You said that we are seeing nowadays like a tsunami. Yes, that we never saw from the World War II. And I have the opportunity here to share our institution with some survivors, and they couldn't imagine that something like this can happen again. And we always are saying never again, never again. Now we have different things that perhaps we can understand why it's so strong, this anti-Semitism. We have nowadays the social media that spread very fast different ideas, and nowadays each one with a cell phone can have his own channel and can speak loud and free. But you are a monitor, yes, a commissioner who monitor and combat the anti-Semitism. Which is the way to combat this hate in the social media?
Well, you touch a very important point, and I believe that the social platforms, the social media are the avenues where the hate has found a free way. It can spread, it can go freely, and we don't see a regulation that could not solve, but help to moderate the content. What I mean about regulation, I mean two things. One is something that should go inside the platforms, and they had it. For instance, Meta, X, or other platforms had content moderators, people who were there to kind of do a surveillance to what is being published. And now it has gone, has been lowered by themselves, favoring freedom of a so-called freedom of expression, especially in the US. But of course, this has repercussions all over the world because they are all American companies. The other leg, besides the self-regulation, is the public regulation. And I mentioned to you and our fellows in the community of Riverside that Brazil is doing an interesting is going an interesting way now. We had a bill that was going to be voted by the parliament, but in the end it didn't reach a consensus to be voted. And now our Supreme Court is deciding about that. And how is the Supreme Court deciding? Began with two cases. For instance, one is so old that it's against Orkut. You are old like me and you remember Orkut. The young people will not know what we are talking about.
Don't know what is Orkut.
Yes, and the other is against Facebook by a fake profile or people who were insulted, offended in the social networks. They filed the claim, and the claim is now in the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court will decide their cases and will set precedent to other cases. And I had the privilege to be one of the, what we call here, and you have that in the Supreme Court, the US Supreme Court too, amicus curiae, which is a friend of the court, when we can explain to the court our perspective. And I went representing the Jewish community and explaining why do we need to regulate the social networks. In Brazil, the current system is something that a content can only be removed. The platform only has to remove a content if a judge gives an order. Someone has to go to the court and the court gives an order and then you have to remove. What we propose is a system known in the legal milieu as notice and take down. For instance, the platform, of course, cannot see everything. It's millions or billions of posts every day, and they cannot be held responsible for everything. But if they get to know if there is a Nazi post, if there is an anti-Semitic post, if there are anti-LGBTQ, etc., anti-Black, etc., and the platform is notified, they do have to do something, be it in 24 hours, 48 hours, 1 week, depends on how serious the offense is. But this system, which is similar to something that already happens in Europe there is a Digital Services Act, may be a way to diminish the impact of the racial, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBTQ slurs that predominate in the network. So both ways, self-regulation with content moderation in one hand, and public regulation, either legislation or court decisions that forces the platforms to remove or not to amplify those contents. Because there's something very important, Gershon, that maybe not everyone pays the attention it's necessary. In your networks, and I follow you on Facebook, for instance, you post how is your community, what you are doing, the activities, etc., etc. This is Gershon speaking, but the reach that you are going to have in your posts is not something that you decide. It's something that comes with the platform. They decide with their algorithm how much your content is going to engage people, because what their business is engagement, and they sell advertising. So if many people give likes to your posts, you're someone that they will pay attention, and maybe they will amplify what you're saying. And what people unfortunately pay more attention in the networks are more intolerant messages than tolerant or respectful messages. This creates engagement, and this belongs to them. This is something that it's proprietary of their technology, of their algorithms, and because of this, they should also be liable.
In one way, you show us that there is some advance in the law to prevent these kind of cases. But in the other hand, we can see that there are important voices who are speaking against Jews. Perhaps you are in contact with, and you write your report, and you can advance in the law side. But in the other side, perhaps you have a prime minister or presidents who are talking against Jews. And this is really how to create a balance, or how to prevent these kind of things. What you can do as a commissioner?
You can denounce, you can dialogue, you can talk, you can. I won't tell you everything that you do, because there are many demarches that are very confidential. And if you see my report, you see that I've been traveling to, especially throughout the continent, in the Western Hemisphere, and talking to presidents, vice presidents, minister of foreign relations, churches, press. I write articles and showing that this kind of discourse can be very harmful can put in danger the Jewish communities in the region, first place. Second, can be harmful to the civil discourse in their own societies, can bring intolerance. That's something we used to say, what starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews. So a society that has anti-Semitic trends within it has a problem. And it's not a Jewish problem, it's a problem of that society. And if you go with genocide and you compare what Israel does to the Nazis, and if you generalize, if you hold Jews responsible for what's going on in the Middle East, for instance, are you voting in Israel? Are you responsible for the election of the prime minister, of the members of Knesset? I know the answer. No, you don't, and I don't, and your congregants don't do either. So why should we be held liable for what happens there? And it happens only with the Jews. For instance, are there Russians living in California, emigres? I believe there are. So
Yes, of course.
are they held responsible for what Putin does in Ukraine? No.
No.
A lot of Turkish people, immigrants in Germany. Are they held responsible for what Erdogan does in Kurdistan? No. Or in Syria? No. Only with the Jews. So
Really great example that you are giving to us.
yes, and people sometimes don't realize, for instance, I have people from the Jewish community that comes to me, but don't you believe that what Israel is doing increases anti-Semitism? And I say, no, it's the opposite. When these things happen in the Middle East, the anti-Semites take advantage of that, so they have a kind of a laissez-passer permit to say, you see what these Jews are doing? And then it starts with words and it ends with killings like we had, unfortunately, in Washington, D.C., in front of the Jewish Museum with the two young people, or with burning people, trying to burn like we had in Colorado. So this translates from the social networks through political leadership and ends with the Jews. I used to say that this thing, especially in what relates to the conflict in Gaza, sometimes you have a lot of fake news that start with, there is a circuit, starts with Hamas, and then it goes to NGOs, and then it goes to Al Jazeera, and then it goes to BBC and New York Times, and then it becomes true. So, and you see every day, and in the newspapers, in the social networks, in the TV, and then you say, wow, must be true. And it takes a lot of time to bring what really happened, and then it's too late because people have already decided and they are thinking about something else. The hospital in Gaza, the killings of some babies and women. And you see, I commented another day in a TV program that you know here at Global News. It's the only, probably the Gaza conflict is the only conflict where only women and children are killed. Every time you say, so many people are killed, most of them women and children, most of them women and children. No combatants, no Hamas people, only. And this goes to old anti-Semitic tropes that unconsciously so Jews kill children. You know the story of Simone de Trento in Italy in the 16th century, the Christian boy who was supposedly killed by Jews in a ritual sacrifice, his blood used to do matzah, etc., etc. Of course, it's not the same thing, but it goes to a place in the memories of, these Jews are baby killers. And again and again and again. And it's very difficult to go against that. You don't see that in Ukraine. You don't see that in Sudan, other conflicts that are happening. Only Israel kills women and children, and this reinforces anti-Semitism.
By my citizenship, I was born in Argentina, and I grew up in Brazil. I'm Brazilian, Argentinian, I closer to the situation in these two countries about what's going on with anti-Semitism. I suffer by myself two terrorist attacks in Buenos Aires. Many times you participate in AMIA,
Yes.
supporting the Jewish community every time that it's coming a new anniversary, and we have, I don't know, we are talking about the more than 20 years without justice. And how is the situation in America, in Latin America in general? I know the situation. We have serious problems nowadays with the Brazilian president, who is speaking open against Israel. We know about President Milei, who is a partner from Israel, and his position is really very clear. What's going in the other countries in Latin America about antisemitism? We know also about the Maduro regime in Venezuela.
Yes, so it's a matter of concern, of course. You have the numbers of the Latin American Jewish Congress, the Observatorio Web, from CONIB, from DAIA. I won't tire your congregants with statistics, but of course, it's very serious, and the increase was in the numbers of 500%, 600% in Chile, Colombia, etc., etc. But we have to say, when you compare what's going on in the US, in Canada, or in some European countries, it is still very much limited to the virtual environment and not necessarily to the in-person, to the real, say, environment. So, of course, there are cases, and we are aware of that. You mentioned the cases in the 90s against AMIA and the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires. And may I recall, if you allow me, that among the people who were killed in Iran of the military leadership, the replacement of one of them in the Revolutionary Guard is Ahmed Vahdi, who is in the Interpol list because of his participation in AMIA. So it's not something that I think these Jews are paranoid, they are seeing things. No, the guy who is in power in Iran 30 years ago was killing Jews in Argentina. So, and we try to use instruments, for instance, adopting the IRA definition. I don't know how much your fellow congregants are aware of that. It's an important tool. It's a definition of anti-Semitism, which has 11 examples that help people to identify when we have a case of anti-Semitism or not. And what's something that for us may be evident, it's not the same for people who don't belong to the Jewish community and or are in position of deciding things about that, such as policemen, district attorneys, and judges. We have cases, we take people to court because of anti-Semitic attitudes or speeches. Latin American countries are not First Amendment countries. It's a different, it's an important distinction that you have to be aware. Here in many of our countries, the prejudicial speech may be punished by law. In Brazil, anti-Semitism is a crime, is like racism. And for instance, during the pandemics that you just mentioned, we had a case here by a journalist in the north of Brazil. He had 300,000 followers in his page of Facebook. And he said, well, what is happening that nobody in Israel gets contaminated by COVID? I think you will remember the case. And maybe it's because the Jews are selling the vaccines or are selling the medicines to combat it, etc. It's something that goes again with the old anti-Semitic tropes.
Something
Uh,
crazy, absolutely crazy.
But we took him to court and he was convicted. So we stimulate when there are strong cases by people to taking them to court to denounce it. We have also in the OAS an Inter-American Commission of Human Rights. We have a Court of Human Rights in San Jose, Costa Rica. For instance, the case of Amia was tried there. I think you are aware, and the Argentine state was convicted, was condemned by the court. So there are legal instruments, and there is the IRA definition that helps us. For instance, we are pushing for new countries to adopt it. More than 40 countries all over the world have adopted it. In the Americas, we have 7. 3 of them during our mandate: Panama, Colombia, and Guatemala. And why is that important? Because when you have a case and people say, no, this is not anti-Semitism. No, this is freedom of expression. No, this is anti-Zionism. And then you have the examples. It's not a legally binding definition, but it helps a lot. And we had a case, for instance, in São Paulo, after the Gaza conflict started, by a journalist who is Jew, is a Jewish guy, but he's very vocal, very strong against Israel, against the Jewish community. And he was convicted by the court, and the judge used the IRA definition, said, well, Brazil didn't allow the definition, but is an observer. It's a member observer of the IRA. So, of course, this is anti-Semitism. And if you combine these legal cases with the definition, with interviews, with statements, with notes, and talking to authorities and talking to the social platforms. We just issued a letter, many special envoys to Meta, to X, to Google, for them to adopt some content moderation rules that can help. And we have to, you had the President Theodore Roosevelt in the US, he said of his foreign policy, talk softly and carry a big stick. So both cases, talk softly, legal enforcement, embarrassing them in public. So there's a lot of strategies that we use that we believe that in the end can help to diminish the volume and the spread of hate in these really big avenues that the social platforms have become.
Do you think that the level of anti-Semitism is related to the number of the Jewish community in each country or not?
No.
A big number of Jews?
Not necessarily. You see, for instance, there are countries where there are no Jews and there is anti-Semitism. You saw the case of I think, Maldives Islands that kind of prevented Israelis to enter, and the prime minister gave many strong statements, and there is no Jewish community. In Poland, you see sometimes some statements, some measures, we just had an election where a historian who is a revisionist of the Holocaust was elected president in Poland. And you will remember that some time ago, there was a debate where by law it was forbidden to talk about the collaboration between Poles and Nazis during the war. And the Jewish community in Poland is very tiny. So I don't think it has a direct relationship. Of course, communities like in the US are more visible, and people kind of feel entitled to react to them.
I would like to share our screen, and I would like to show some photographs, and I would like to ask you What memories do you have from each time, each meeting? You met with very important leaders worldwide, and I would like to ask you. Yes, we have here your meeting with Luis Almagro, the former president of the
Secretary General.
as Secretary General of the Organization of American States. Who is the new secretary
It's Mr. Albert Ramdim for Suriname.
from Suriname? Is it a Jewish community in Suriname or not?
I don't know yet, but I'll find out.
Okay.
There is a history of Jews passing by Suriname when they left Brazil, going to the Caribbean. But I don't know if currently there is a Jewish community.
Tell me, how was your meeting with President Isaac Herzog?
Well, he's a good friend. I admire him profoundly. I think he always trying to put the Jewish people, the Israeli society and the Jewish people in general together. When he was the president of the Jewish Agency, we participated in some initiatives, and he wrote a very beautiful letter to Secretary Almagro when I was appointed. And I think we have a partner in him for all the good causes.
He started something really very nice that I participate, Voice of the President,
Voice of people.
Voice of People. It's a very
Yeah.
nice project to involve the Jewish community worldwide with the state of
It's
Israel.
very important, Gershon. You know, I think he felt the need to do that because I think all of us, and I am sure that people in your community will confirm, we're very disappointed with so many people that we thought were our friends after October 7. And we found sometimes silence, sometimes an opposition, and sometimes we found statements that we could not expect. At the same time, I think all of us got closer with our Jewish communities within our circle of friends and acquaintances. And I believe we should not lose this. We must find unity. We must find common ground and see what can unite us in Israel, within Israel, and with Israel and diaspora, to be together to face this new challenge. We cannot afford
Alone.
the division that we were living before that.
Okay, let's continue here with Professor Yehuda Bauer, who passed away. He was really a brilliant person who developed and who studied the Holocaust.
Yes,
I studied with him in Jerusalem, in Yad Vashem.
wow.
I had it's right. He was really brilliant.
Yeah, he was some kind of a light, like a beacon. And we were mentioning the IRA definition. He is one of the authors of the IRA definition that is so important.
Okay. I imagine many conference meetings.
Yes, I'm beside Deborah Lipstadt that I just mentioned, who is a historian and from memory, and everybody knows her since the movie Denial, where she tells the story about the lawsuits that she had to face by David Irving in London, revisionist too.
Okay, let's continue. It's a photograph here with Panama. Yes, different.
Yes, there's the Minister of Foreign Relations that I just mentioned that they adopted the IRA definition.
Good. I would like to go to this photograph now with Pope Francis.
I met him twice. In the second time in June 2023, I took to him, you see a booklet in my hand that I gave to him. asking him to consider the adoption of our definition by the Vatican, which would be something very important in moral grounds and in kind of the interreligious dialogue. But unfortunately, he didn't have the time. He began to get sick just 1 week later, and I think he never recovered. But we'll try again. Let's see what the new Pope thinks about that. We have seen some encouraging signs from him, and let's work together. That's what we have to do. That's what diplomatic work is. You build relations, you explain your position, you engage with people, you try to persuade them and bring them to our side, because I do believe that our cause is very just, and we have reasons to have more people with us on our side.
Do you think that the Vatican is a good partner for the Jewish people?
I think it has been. I think it has been, especially since the Vatican Council, the Second Vatican Council, 6 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. The other time that we met him, I was at CONIB, and it was the 50th anniversary. And you, as a rabbi, know the Copernican revolution that it meant for us, in terms of liturgy, in terms of proselytism, in non-proselytism, in terms of interfaith dialogue, and what it brought to us. So for you can compare what was the relationship between Catholics and Jews by that time, what is today the difficulties of the Jewish-Muslim dialogue. And you have been a very vocal person in this, and we started doing things, some of them together, and we know we have to have hope, but we know it's difficult. It has some particularities, especially not coming from theology, from religion, but from politics. And nowadays, the dialogue with Catholics is goes very smoothly in many ways. So I think, yes, they are a partner, and I hope we can work together with the new Pope.
Here another photograph with the Spain King.
Yes, Philip VI.
Yes.
He spent, it was a meeting, the special envoys and the commissioners we have in Zoom and in personal meetings, sometimes twice a year, 4 times a year. And this was a meeting sponsored by the World Jewish Congress in Madrid. And he stayed with us about more than 2 hours, talking about the Jewish heritage, about what happened in Spain, how they are trying to bring back to history the roles the Jews played there. And it's something that was erased with the Inquisition and with the expulsion of the Jews. And they made some steps, some important steps, for instance, granting citizenship to the descendants of the people who were expelled, by establishing the Rede de Juderías in España. They sponsored the Casa Sefarad in Madrid, that it's about Jewish culture, bringing Jewish culture to the people of Spain. So I think they have done many important steps towards a new approach.
But it's a little ambiguous, because in one hand, the king is in favor, and you have the Prime Minister of Spain who is completely against Israel.
Yes, nobody says it's easy.
Yes. Okay, here are more meetings in New York.
United Nations, when we had the opportunity to speak to member states about anti-Semitism with other special envoys. And then you have below, if you can turn the page, at UNESCO. This is Audrey Azoulay. She's the daughter of André Azoulay, who is the counselor to the King of Morocco. And UNESCO, if you remember what UNESCO was a few years ago, a kind of hotbed of anti-Semitism with resolutions about Jerusalem, about everything in Israel and what it is nowadays, this lady has done an amazing job. And specifically with what regards to Holocaust teaching, we participate in many initiatives, and they have a website which is called aboutholocaust.org that is made in together with the World Jewish Congress. For instance, if you go to the social networks, we're talking about that. Sometimes when you try to inform yourself something about Jews, you go to anti-Semitic pages. If you go to Holocaust, you go to Holocaust distortion or denial pages. And with the help of UNESCO and some platforms, you can be directed to aboutholocaust.org and have reliable information of what really happened. So these things take a lot of time to happen, a lot of efforts by many people, not only us, not only Special Envoys, not only the Director General of UNESCO, not only the World Jewish Congress, but when we work together, I think we can reach very important objectives.
And here, yes, your participation in different newspapers, with writings, with interviews.
This is in Geneva, the Human Rights Council. This is in Costa Rica with Vice President. Also Costa Rica, the International Court of Human Rights, with Chile, the Foreign Minister.
How is the situation in Chile with the biggest Palestinian community outside the Middle East? How is the situation of anti-Semitism?
Difficult. They don't have, for instance, besides everything that has to do with Middle East, they don't have an anti-discrimination law. And it lacks a lot. It's very difficult for the Jewish community to file cases, to prosecute people who have anti-Semitic conduct. So I think Chile has been one of the countries that I have most visited many times. And we've been together with the community, with the authorities, with the press, raising the awareness, calling the attention about the dangers that anti-Semitism can bring. And it's not easy. It's a small Jewish community, a strong and big Palestinian community, and very militant in the issues of the Middle East. And we used to say that it's okay to have an opinion about what happens in Middle East. We have friends, we have family, but this is not a Chilean problem, it's not a Brazilian problem, it's not an Argentinian problem. So if you kind of you bring the conflict to your society, you're not solving the issue in the Middle East because it's not up to you. And at the same time, you bring problems to your own society, prejudice, hate, intolerance, so only negative things.
We can see that we have too many levels of dialogue. In the high spheres, yes, you have a level of dialogue and we can understand each other and we can work together. But how to translate this dialogue to the people? How we are doing this to fight against anti-Semitism? I can talk with different ministers, from different religions. We can agree, disagree, but we are in one level. How we arrive? I use here, for example, and also I did the same in Brazil. I used to receive many students from universities, schools, just to talk about our identity and to talk about general issues. But which is the way?
For instance, I'll give you some examples. When you talk to the court in Brazil, and they make a decision to regulate social medias. This is a concrete effect. When you go to the foreign ministry of Panama for months or years, and they adopt the area definition, and it begins to be valid in this country, as in Colombia, as in Guatemala. When you go to, and this is something that CONIB has been doing very strongly here, you have 12 states in Brazil that have adopted the area definition. It begins to be effective. You talk to deans in universities, for instance, you have all the issues in the campuses in the US. Here in, as I mentioned, Latin America, in the much lower scale, but it also exists. And we had 2 cases here in Brazil where one of the universities, a Catholic one, adopted the area definition, and it implemented a policy based on it to sanction students and professors that have anti-Semitic conduct. And another university that did not adopt the definition, but put a new code of ethics and conduct that sanctions anti-Semitism and says what the punishment will be if people do this or that. That did not exist. So this is concrete. It's not only good talk, smooth, diplomatic, say blah, 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 but tachlis, something that improves the lives and improves the security of Jewish communities in the region. This is our goal.
Dr. Fernando Lottenberg, first of all, I would like to thank you, not just for your time to be with us, just for your work, because you represent our entire people in a continent. And sometimes it's difficult to see what we are doing, but it's very important, not just for you, for our people. And I'm thinking that this is the secret. There are many people who are doing their jobs, and perhaps the result, it will be a great result, not just in a region or in a country or in a city. It will be a great result to give an examples to others, because we are building a new relationship with examples, and we need to be an example for others. And I would like to appreciate and to wish you the best in these difficult times.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gershon. It was a pleasure, as always, to be with you and with your congregation. And just a final message that we must be united as a global Jewish solidarity, making allies, as difficult as it may be, looking for governments, legislators, judges. We must show them the dangers that anti-Semitism may bring to our democracies, to our societies. And it's clear that this is an evil thing that must be fought by all of us, Jews, non-Jews, who truly want a world with more respect, more tolerance, more harmony, free from any kind of persecution. That's how we developed ourselves as communities in this region, that we may keep the new world with its original promise as a place where people can live as they wish, regardless from where they came from. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado.
Abraço.
Thank you. Okay, it was the conversation with Dr. Fernando Lottenberg, lawyer, and the first commissioners to monitor and combat the anti-Semitism. I'm thinking that he spoke about a lot of topics, important topics. And people like Fernando, yes, he's working in a non-Jewish organization, but there are a lot of Jewish organizations like the World Jewish Congress, IDL, and the World Jewish Congress Latin America section, and the big institutions that also are working against anti-Semitism, and each one of us is doing what is possible to do. I'm thinking that, for example, for me as a rabbi, it's very important to be part of the interfaith groups, because it's a way to understand and to promote respect between the different religions, and we need to construct this relationship. This is something that you construct when you come here in a Shabbat for a service, and you see students from different universities. These students will be professionals just in a couple of years, and they can be a reference for many other people. And it's so important to have many of these students. I ask, is it your first time visiting a synagogue? 99% answer yes. It's our, and this is a way to construct a through relationship, because sometimes what they see about Judaism, it's this minute that they see in the television or in the social media, and don't reflect the truth about what is the Jewish community, how we think, how we are, how we pray. They need to be in touch with us, and we need to be in touch with them. Many times we need to do our work, not just when we are working inside the community. You as Jews, when you are going to a supermarket, or when you are visiting your social group, or when you are going to play cards, I don't know, if you heard something against Jews, yes, you are a representative of these people, of our people. You need to speak loud. This is our mission. Okay, we don't need to expect from the leaders just to talk or to defend the Jews or the Judaism. Each one of us is responsible, and we are part of the same people. Of course, that when something happened in Israel, the repercussion is here. We are in the other side of the world. We saw the statistic of anti-Semitism, and we saw that California is in the second place in America about the numbers. But let me tell you something as Argentinian, but perhaps you don't know. In the end of the Second World War, many of the Nazis went to South America, and they arrived to Argentina and Chile because it was in the end of the world, and they thought, okay, nobody is going to go so far. Nobody is going to arrive to Argentina. And there are many ideas and many stories, but recently, in the bottom of the ocean, of the Atlantic Ocean, appears some of the ships and the submarine of the Nazi submarines that arrives to South America, and they arrive with a lot of gold, and this is true. And we have in Argentina many German villages founded by the Nazis, and we need to remember, for example, that Eichmann, Umar Shemo, was found in Argentina, in Buenos Aires province, in Buenos Aires state. And why are you talking about this? Because these people who arrived from Europe spread ideas of anti-Semitism. And for example, the Argentinian army in the 40s or in the 30s, they went to train to Germany. Okay, and they came back with this ideology, and they spread this Judeophobia. Yes, this idea against the Jews. They spread in Argentina, and we need to remember also during the time of Pinochet, when Pinochet was the president of Chile, and also these ideas were spread in the continent. And we need to remember two important things. One of them, Venezuela. Venezuela nowadays, it's a great friend from Iran and Russia. Okay, and recently, perhaps 1 year ago or 2 years ago, some ships from Iran went to Brazil because Brazil is working with uranium, and it was very difficult for the Iranians to find uranium and to enrich the uranium to produce the atomic bombs. And some ships from Iran went to Brazil, and everybody saw these army ships in Brazil. And Brazil till today they have a strong relationship with Iran. And the Brazilian president in the last week he said that Jews are looking to themselves as victims in the Middle East. Okay, we victimize the situation. The victim, we are trying to victimize and to see ourselves as the victims. This is what the Brazilian president is speaking nowadays, and really it's very dangerous. When I was in Buenos Aires in the 90s, I saw the explosion of the Jewish Federation of Buenos Aires. Okay, 95 people were killed in this explosion. It was a huge building, 11 floors, and they put a truck just in front of the building, and they exploded the building. And many people were walking in the street. It was downtown, and many Argentinian citizens were killed. Not Jews. Most of them Jews who were working at AMIA, that is the Jewish Federation. And this is an important point that Dr. Lottenberg said. Nowadays, the main general of the Iranian army, it's in the Interpol list because he was the executor of the terrorist attack in Buenos Aires. It's a relation between South America, and it was a hate against Jews by Iran. Sometimes it's very difficult to say, okay, anti-Semitism it's related to Jews, and anti-Zionism it's related to Israel. Our enemies try to confuse and to create a big problems. There are many. For example, I visited recently Barcelona in Spain, and the mayor of Barcelona declares that the city it's not a friendly city for Israel. Okay, for Israelis. You know that many cities have this brothership or sisterhood with other cities, and the mayor of Barcelona broke this sisterhood with, I don't know if it was Haifa or any other Israeli city. Fake news and anti-Semitism are going together. Fake news are very dangerous and are not just against Jews. There are many fake news the entire time in the social media, and we don't know what is true, what is fake. But we have also the obligation to be a voice, to be a voice of the truth. And he mentioned how important it is to study Holocaust, for example, by Jewish institutions. Bless you, Randy. How important it is to study about the Holocaust through Jewish institution, and not by fake websites that they are not telling the truth. other things that I can mention, it's about their responsibility. We have people like Fernando Lottenberg that they are doing really a very good job, and perhaps we don't know. Yes, perhaps for you it's new that we have a Jewish who is a commissioner, and we have many Jews involved in different institutions. Let me give you another example that I'm sure that you don't know. Inside the Vatican City, it's an office from the World Jewish Congress. And this is something that happened with Pope Francis, because his nice relationship with the Jewish community that started in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, and continues in Italy. But the World Jewish Congress have an office inside the Vatican. And how important is this to combat anti-Semitism and to be together in these times? Perhaps in the past was so difficult to arrive to the Pope, and nowadays many Jewish leaders around the world can talk with the Pope. The Pope is really a very important leader for millions of Christians or of Catholics. How important it's to build this relationship with the leaders. Yes, because they can give their messages, and they can speak against anti-Semitism. And this declaration of IRA that Dr. Fernando Lottenberg spoke, and I show you at the beginning of our meeting, it's really very important how we, as Jews and the Jewish institutions, how we invite more countries to sign, because it's a compromise, it's a commitment. They have a commitment to fight against anti-Semitism, and many of the problems in this world started with us, Jews, but continued with others. Commentaries. We are arriving to the last minutes of our meeting. I would like to hear from you some commentary, reflection about this issue.
Thank you, Rabbi Gershon. This was very enlightening. This is Joan.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
And thank you for getting that very nice man, a very, very well-traveled man who is so positive. It left us with a little bit of, oh my God, look at what's happening. But we have somebody like him and you fighting for or dialoguing with people who are anti-Semitic. It's the only way. We got to get our PR better. And he was really an impressive, really wonderful man. Thank you for doing that.
This is the idea, to introduce you to important personalities from the Jewish world, and of course not just from the Jewish world, but to have these kind of dialogues when it's possible with the guests with us, but sometimes with the Zoom time it's a little difficult here in California. But the idea is to introduce you important people from the Jewish world, and to develop different issues. I consider that in this time, with what's going on in Israel, with anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, it's really very important to know where we are exactly and what we can do as Jews. And other commentaries, other voices.
Rabbi, couple of thoughts come to my mind. It wasn't addressed, and I'm sure in your dealing with people, the difference between pro-Israel and anti-Netanyahu. And you had a guest speaker at one time that participated in the anti-Bibi demonstrations in, I think it was Jerusalem. And is that still going on? And the fact that the hostages, if any of them are still alive, that seems to have been at least less publicized. And that's one thought that came to my mind, is the conflicts that I myself have with Netanyahu's policy and being pro-Israel. Advocate, certainly want the state of Israel to exist. And yet the Gaza and, the thought, enough is enough. The other comment, and I had this discussion with my grandson, who's Christian and very pro-Palestinian. So it's an interesting but a good commentary in dealing with my family that's in conflict and myself in conflict. The other thought I had that you stimulated was, and wasn't addressed, is Mexico. Now with a president, Claudia Sheinbaum, and I don't know to what extent she practices Judaism. Possibly, I don't know who she married, but she has, at least I'm aware, from mainly television media, that she is Jewish. And, hopefully that this prominent figure, unless it again stereotypes Jews as being smart and, the typical stereotype. But the fact that she's attractive, she's a leader, and she got elected not only as a woman in a Catholic country, but as a Jew. That seems to me extremely impressive, that we're making thresholds into anti-Semitism.
Let me share some comments about your comment or your thoughts. First of all, we need to distinguish as a Jewish people that we can support the people of Israel, but it's not mandatory for us to support the administration, the Israeli administration. You can agree or disagree with the Israeli administration, but as mentioned, Dr. Lottenberg, we don't vote in Israel. You can give your opinion, but we as Jews, we don't vote in Israel. We didn't choose the prime minister. We can have an idea, but I'm thinking as a Jew, yes, I will be always in favor, and I always will support the people of Israel, and always I will support the existence of the state of Israel. I never can be against the existence of the state of Israel. Okay. My personal opinion, and this is what I defend for Middle East two states. Okay, two states, the state of Israel and the Palestinian state. But I will support the Palestinian state when the Palestinian state will agree with the existence of the Israeli state. Okay, this is clear. After October 7th, many of these people who were fighting their entire life to support the creation of a Palestinian state, they changed their mind. Because many of these kibbutzim who were attacked were with people who support the Palestinians, most of them, and they were the first for being killed. Okay, the ideology, they move close to the border because they like to build a strong relationship with the Palestinians, and these Palestinians came to the state of Israel to work, and they enter and they became friends from this kibbutzim. But I don't like to continue on this issue. What about relationship inside our families? the polarization, it's also inside our families, and it's inside our group of friends. And perhaps there is good not to talk about certain issues to keep the peace atmosphere in our family and with our friends. And we can't import some conflicts that they are not our conflicts. And this is something that I'm working. Okay, it's a war in Middle East, but it's not a war inside the United States, or it's not a war inside the community if I support or I don't support the war. Okay, this is something that happened there. I can have my ideas. I can support one side. I can support the other, but this is very common in our days to see this polarization inside the families, and and we saw this polarization during the U.S. elections. There are people who support the administration, there are people who are against the administration, and we can see this division, not just with Israel or anti-Semitism. We are in a global world when the polarization is coming inside our families and inside our friends. And sometimes this is the issue, okay, to fight with someone who is very close to us, okay, just by the politics ideas or thoughts. And the last issue that you comment, Feliz, was about, remember me, the last issue that you spoke?
Brought up Claudia Scheinberg of Mexico.
Yes, about Mexico. Not, thank you for remembering. Not necessarily Jewish leaders are in favor of the state of Israel. And this is the case of the Mexican president. Sometimes they're, as Jews, they try to show to the population that, okay, I'm Jew, but I'm not in favor of Israel. And this is what we can see with the Mexican president. She's Jew, but she's not in favor of what's happened in Middle East with the Israeli position. Okay, this is a fact. And sometimes they are playing in this way just to attract more votes or voters. The same happened with some owners of newspapers who are Jews, but in their own newspaper there are articles against Israel. How it can be that the owner of the newspaper is a Jew, but they publish articles against Israel? And this is part of the game. It's a political game. Yes, they are scary, perhaps, to lose subscriptions or readers or votes, this and that. Thank you very much for your comments, Feliz. Any other comment? Jason, you are so concentrated.
I just wanted to mention a bright spot. The most popular podcast on YouTube is done by three Jewish brothers called the Midas Touch Network, and they bill themselves as pro-democracy independent media. They're not part of a newspaper or a cable TV company or anything like that. So they're very, very good. They have several different people on their network, but they're Jewish. And another leading contributor for independent media is Brian Tyler Cohen, who is also Jewish, and he's around 4 to 5 million subscribers. In the Midas Touch Network, the number one is about 5 million subscribers. So they're very good on facts, and you may not agree with all the conclusions, but the facts are pretty good.
Can you remember the podcast or the link?
The what?
Is
The
it
name of the YouTube channel is the Midas Touch Network. And Brian Tyler Cohen, the name of his channel is Brian Tyler Cohen.
Okay. Okay.
So there's a lot more out there that are Jewish that are just fantastic. So, but I'll stop at 2.
We can see the diversification. In the past, we just follow journalists in the open TV. Now, after this, we have cable channels, and nowadays, yes, you by your own can open a channel in YouTube. Yes, and it's for free, and you can have a million of followers, and all will depend your choice, what you are going to talk, and we learn from our sage that a word, it's really very dangerous. You can build with words, with your message, or you can destroy. And the problem of the anti-Semitism that everything starts with an ideology, but later on can be really very dangerous, because from an ideology or for a cultural position can go to the physical aggression, and this is something that it's we need to be worried, and we need to take care. Dear friends, any other comment? I would like to appreciate for your participation, and I hope that it was a good time to reflect with Dr. Fernando Lottenberg about many issues. Thank you, Randy, for your commentary.
Thank you.
And let's be in touch. Let me just